Billionaire and new girlfriend shopping for a villa, shocked motionless by his pregnant ex and unfinished love story. An unexpected encounter. The Mediterranean sun poured through floor-to-ceiling windows as Karim Al-Majid stepped into the marble foyer of Villa Azur, his hand resting lightly on Yasmin's lower back. His fiancée's heels clicked against the polished stone, echoing through the empty grandeur of what could become their future home. "It's magnificent," Yasmin breathed, her designer dress swishing as she moved toward the ocean-facing windows. Her perfectly styled hair caught the light, and Karim felt a pang of something he couldn't name. Satisfaction, perhaps, or the hollow victory of moving forward. The real estate agent, a polished woman named Nadia, gestured expansively. The property includes 6 bedrooms, private beach access, and... Karim barely heard her. His attention had been drawn to the terrace beyond the glass doors, where a figure stood silhouetted against the brilliant blue sky. Something about the way she held herself, the gentle curve of her posture, made his breath catch. Then she turned. Time fractured into sharp, painful pieces. Reem. His Reem, no, not his anymore, stood on the terrace in a flowing dress that couldn't hide the rounded swell of her pregnancy. Her dark hair lifted in the sea breeze, and even from this distance, he could see the shock mirrored in her eyes. "Karim." Yasmin's voice seemed to come from underwater. "Are you all right?" He couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The villa's luxury dissolved around him as he stared at the woman he'd tried desperately to forget for the past year. The woman who had left without explanation, shattering him so completely he'd convinced himself he'd never love again. Reem's hand moved instinctively to her belly, protective and unconscious, and something deep in Karim's chest twisted violently. "Who is that?" Yasmin asked, her voice taking on an edge. But Karim couldn't answer. He was trapped in Reem's gaze across the terrace, in the silent conversation of 2 people who had once known every secret of each other's souls. The real estate agent cleared her throat awkwardly. "Ah, yes, there's another potential buyer viewing the property. I apologize for the scheduling overlap." Karim finally found his voice, though it came out rougher than intended. "It's fine." But nothing was fine. Nothing would ever be fine again. Because Reem was here, pregnant and beautiful and impossibly present, and every carefully constructed wall he'd built around his heart was crumbling to dust. The buried truth. Yasmin excused herself to examine the kitchen, her intuition clearly sensing the charged atmosphere. Nadia, reading the room with professional grace, murmured something about giving them privacy and disappeared down a hallway. Karim stepped onto the terrace, each footfall feeling like walking through water. Reem hadn't moved, her hands still cradling her belly as the ocean wind played with her hair. "Karim," she said softly, his name a prayer and a wound all at once. "How far along?" The question escaped before he could stop it, blunt and desperate. 7 months. Her voice carried the same gentle strength he remembered from 1,000 intimate conversations. "I didn't expect to see you here. That makes 2 of us." He stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the exhaustion shadowing her eyes, the way her fingers trembled slightly. "You look pregnant." A sad smile touched her lips. "I know." The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Behind them, through the glass, he could see Yasmin watching from inside, her posture rigid with understanding. "Why did you leave?" The question he'd buried for a year erupted like a volcano. "You said you didn't love me anymore, that you needed space, but we both know that was a lie, Reem. I felt you that last night. I felt everything." She closed her eyes, pain flickering across her features. "It wasn't a lie about needing space. But you're right, I never stopped loving you." "Then why?" His voice broke despite his efforts to remain composed. Reem turned to face the ocean, her profile etched against the horizon. "Your uncle Rashid came to me. He told me about the inheritance clause, that if you married me, someone from outside the founding families, he could legally contest your position as CEO. He had lawyers, documents, shareholders aligned. He would have torn everything apart." Karim felt the ground shift beneath him. "What?" "He said he'd destroy you publicly, drag the company through years of litigation, bankrupt the charitable foundations your mother built." Tears tracked down her cheeks. He gave me a choice: leave quietly, or watch him dismantle everything you'd worked for. Everything your family stood for. You should have told me. His voice was ragged. We could have fought him together. With what? She turned back to him, fierce now despite her tears. Your love. Your principles. Rashid had the law on his side. Karim. That ancient clause your grandfather wrote into the company charter. It was ironclad. And I couldn't be the reason you lost everything. He moved closer, drawn by instinct. So you sacrificed yourself instead. I sacrificed us. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The hardest thing I've ever done was walk away from you. But I would do it again if it meant protecting you. Inside the villa, Yasmin had turned away from the window, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She'd already understood what Karim was only beginning to grasp, that some loves are too deep to bury, too powerful to outrun. The baby, he said quietly. Who's the father? Reem's eyes met his, and in them he saw the answer before she spoke. You are. A night unforgotten. The world tilted. Karim gripped the terrace railing, his knuckles white against the iron. That last night. Yes. Reem's voice was barely audible over the waves. I came to say goodbye properly. I'd already decided to leave, already packed my things. But I needed one more night to memorize everything about you. Your voice, your touch, the way you whispered my name in the dark. He remembered that night with crystalline clarity. The desperate tenderness between them, the way they'd made love as if trying to pour entire lifetimes into a few stolen hours. He'd sensed something was wrong, but she'd kissed away his questions, distracted him with her body until thought became impossible. I woke up and you were gone, he said hoarsely. Just a note on the pillow saying you couldn't do this anymore, that you needed to find yourself. 3 years of marriage, and you left me a note. Because if I'd stayed to explain, I never would have left. Fresh tears spilled down her face. And then 2 weeks later, I realized I was pregnant. I thought about telling you 1,000 times. But what would that have accomplished? You'd have insisted on being involved, and Rashid would have used it as ammunition. The scandal of a pregnant ex-wife would have made everything worse. Karim closed the distance between them, his hand hovering near her face before finally, gently, cupping her cheek. She leaned into his touch like a flower toward sunlight, her eyes closing. You've been carrying this alone, he murmured. The pregnancy, the truth, all of it. I had to. For you. Behind them, the glass door opened softly. Yasmin stepped onto the terrace, elegant and composed despite the pain etched in her features. She looked between them, understanding written in every line of her body. I think, Yasmin said quietly, I should go. Karim, you don't need to explain. I can see it, what you two have. I thought maybe I could be enough, but... She smiled sadly. I deserve to be someone's first choice, not their second attempt at happiness. Yasmin, Karim began, but she raised a hand. Don't. You're a good man, Karim. But you're not mine. She glanced at Reem with something like sympathy. He never stopped talking about you. Even when he thought he'd moved on, you were there in every conversation, every decision. I was just too hopeful to see it. She walked back through the villa, her heels clicking away into silence, leaving Karim and Reem alone with the weight of truth finally spoken. Karim's thumb traced the curve of Reem's cheekbone, his other hand moving to rest gently on her belly. He felt movement beneath his palm, their child, kicking at his touch, and something inside him broke open and rearranged itself into a new shape. I never stopped loving you either, he whispered. Not for a single day. Confessions by the sea. They stood there as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Reem's hand covered his on her belly, their child active between them. After I left, Reem said, her voice steadier now, I moved to the coast. Found a small apartment, started working remotely for a design firm. I told myself I was protecting you, but every day felt like drowning. Then I found out about the baby, and suddenly I had a reason to keep breathing. Karim guided her to the terrace bench, settling beside her with careful attention to her comfort. His hand remained on her belly, marveling at each flutter of movement. "I need you to understand something," he said, his voice low and intense. "Rashid's threat, I would have given it all up. The company, the money, the empire. None of it matters without you. That's exactly why I couldn't tell you." She turned to face him fully. "You would have sacrificed everything out of love, and then one day you would have resented me for it. Maybe not consciously, maybe not for years, but eventually." "No," he interrupted firmly. "Reem, I've spent the last year with everything I supposedly needed to protect. The company thrived. I made more money than I can spend in a lifetime. I had a beautiful woman who wanted to marry me. And I was miserable. Completely, profoundly empty." He took both her hands in his, pressing them to his chest where his heart hammered. "You want to know what happened after you left? I threw myself into work. 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I acquired 3 companies, opened offices in 5 countries, doubled our revenue. And every single night, I came home to an empty penthouse and wished I'd lost everything if it meant you'd still be there." "Karim." "I'm not finished." His eyes burned with intensity. 3 months ago, Rashid had a stroke. He's alive but incapacitated. His lawyers quietly approached me about settling. Turns out his case wasn't as strong as he'd claimed. It would have been contested, expensive, but ultimately I would have won. He was bluffing, Reem. And in his fear and greed, he cost us a year of happiness. Reem's breath caught. He was bluffing. Not entirely, there would have been a fight. But we would have survived it. He pressed his forehead to hers. We would have survived anything together. That's what you didn't understand. That's what I need you to believe now. The baby kicked hard, and they both laughed through tears, the sound watery but real. "I'm terrified," Reem confessed. "What if I'm not enough this time? What if?" He silenced her with a kiss, gentle and reverent, tasting salt and hope and the ocean wind. When he pulled back, his eyes held hers with unwavering certainty. "You were always enough. You are everything." A new beginning. Night fell over Villa Azur, transforming the terrace into a space illuminated by moonlight and the distant lights of boats on the horizon. Nadia had long since left them alone, intuiting that this property viewing had become something far more significant. Karim hadn't let go of Reem's hand, his thumb tracing endless circles on her skin as if memorizing her all over again. Their child had settled into quieter movements, perhaps lulled by their parents' voices. "I've been looking at properties," Reem said softly, "trying to find a place where I could raise our baby alone. Somewhere with good schools, safe neighborhoods. I'd convinced myself that was enough, that giving our child a stable life would fill the hole you left. And now I'm realizing I was preparing to repeat my mistake." She looked up at the villa's elegant facade. "I was going to make another decision for both of us without asking what you wanted. Without trusting that we could figure it out together." Karim stood, drawing her up with him. "What I want is to wake up every morning with you beside me. I want to feel our baby kick at 3 in the morning and complain about it together. I want to hold your hand through labor and hold our child for the first time with you. I want school plays and messy dinners and arguments about whose turn it is to change diapers." "That's very specific," she said, laughing through fresh tears. "I've had a year to think about it." He pulled her closer, mindful of her belly between them. "I want the ordinary magic of building a life with you. Not the perfect fantasy version where nothing goes wrong, the real one, with complications and compromises and choosing each other every single day." Reem's hands slid up to rest against his chest. "I'm scared I don't remember how to do this. How to be loved. How to stay. Then we'll learn together." He kissed her forehead, her temple, the corner of her mouth. "I'm not the same man you left, Reem. This year taught me what really matters. Not empires or legacies, just this. Just us. Just love that doesn't give up even when everything else falls apart." "What about Yasmin?" "Deserves honesty, which I'll give her. She already knows. She saw it the moment we looked at each other." He cupped Reem's face in both hands. She deserves someone who loves her the way I love you. Completely. Impossibly. Without reservation or doubt. The baby kicked again, stronger this time, and they both stilled, marveling at the life they'd created in their final night together. A night born from love too powerful to contain, too precious to truly end. I want to buy this villa, Karim said suddenly. Not as an investment or a trophy. As our home. Where we start over. Where our child learns to walk and talk and grow up knowing that love is worth fighting for. Reem searched his eyes, looking for doubt and finding only absolute certainty. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, pouring a year of loneliness and longing into the connection of their mouths, their breath, their rekindling souls. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Reem whispered against his lips, "Take me home." "This is home," he murmured back. "Wherever we're together, that's home." They stood wrapped in each other as the Mediterranean night deepened around them, two people who traveled through sacrifice and separation to find their way back to the only truth that mattered, that some loves are written in the stars, unbreakable by time or circumstance or fear. Their baby moved between them, a promise of the future they'd build together, not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth every struggle. Not the ending they'd planned, but the beginning they'd always deserved. Lessons from the story. True love requires both courage and trust. Reem's sacrifice came from love but lacked trust in their partnership. Real love means facing challenges together, not protecting someone from them. The strongest bonds are forged when two people choose to be vulnerable and honest, even when the truth is difficult. Material success means nothing without emotional fulfillment. Karim's empire and achievements couldn't fill the void Reem's absence created. True wealth isn't measured in properties or profits, but in the connections we nurture and the love we choose to prioritize above all else. Forgiveness begins with forgiving ourselves. Both Karim and Reem had to release their guilt, his for not seeing the signs, hers for the decision she made. Only by accepting their past mistakes could they create space for a new future together. Second chances are precious gifts, not guaranteed rights. Their reunion wasn't fate but the result of choosing each other again despite fear and uncertainty. Love doesn't conquer all automatically. It requires conscious, daily decisions to stay, to trust, and to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of what came before. The end.